Ladies and gentlemen, there's a moment in time when everything you've been waiting for, everything you've been praying for, everything you've been working for suddenly falls into place. You can feel it in the air. Things are shifting, things are moving, and things are coming into alignment. I want you to know there is a divine timing, an unseen hand guiding your steps, a schedule you don't have to worry about, a calendar you don't have to control. Life is a series of building blocks. Events can change you. You've been walking through the valleys. You've been enduring the lonely nights. You've been facing the struggles, the setbacks, and the disappointments. But let me tell you something. There is a moment coming in your life when all of that is going to make sense. It's going to come together in a way that you can't explain, a way that no one can understand, a way that's going to leave you in awe. Because the truth is, there's a time for everything. There's a time when all of the tears you've cried are going to turn into laughter. There's a time when all of the pain you felt is going to transform into purpose. There's a time when all of the confusion you've had is going to give way to clarity. And the best part about it is you don't have to make it happen. You don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate it. You don't have to chase it down. No, no, no. This moment is already marked on the calendar of your life. It's already scheduled. It's already planned. And the pieces are already falling into place. When the time is right, it will all come together. I know, it's hard to wait. It's hard to wait for something that you know is coming but hasn't arrived yet. But hear me when I say this. Sometimes the wait is necessary. The delay is not denial. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not on the way. There's work happening behind the scenes. There are people in places you don't even know working on your behalf, setting things up for the moment when you step into your breakthrough. And I want you to understand something about waiting. Waiting doesn't mean inactivity. Waiting doesn't mean standing still. Waiting doesn't mean you sit around and do nothing. No, no. Waiting is active. Waiting is preparation. Waiting is development. Waiting is the refining process that makes you ready for the blessing that's coming. You see, if you rush into something too soon, if you try to make it happen before the time is right, you might miss the very thing you've been hoping for. But when the time is right, when the moment has arrived, it will be exactly what you need, and you'll be exactly who you need to be to receive it. I want you to look back over your life for a moment. Think about the things you prayed for, the things you hoped for, the things you wanted. Look at what you've been through to get to this point. Look at the lessons you've learned. Look at the strength you've gained. Look at the wisdom that has been developed in you. Do you realize that everything you've gone through has been preparing you for this moment? Every setback was a setup. Every disappointment was a direction. Every closed door was a redirecting of your path. And right now, right where you are, it might not look like it, but the moment you've been waiting for is on the way. Now, I know there's some of you right now who are asking when, though. When is it going to happen? When is it going to come to pass? And to that I say, it's already been decided. It's already been planned. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to make it happen. The timing is perfect. It's a divine timing. It's a timing that's bigger than your understanding, bigger than your schedule, bigger than your plans. It's the kind of timing that only comes from a greater source, a higher purpose, a bigger vision. And it's working in your favor even when you can't see it. Listen, I need you to understand something. This is not your doing. This is not about your effort, your strength, your striving. No, no. This is about what has been set in motion before you even knew it. This is about the things that have been written in the book of your life long before you ever took your first step. This is about things that were ordained, things that were destined, things that were prepared just for you. And when the time comes, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stop it. You've been through the fire and it hasn't burned you. You've been through the storm and you're still standing. You've been through the wilderness and you've come out stronger. Do you think that's for nothing? Do you think all of that was just random? No, no, no. Everything you've been through has been a part of the preparation for this moment. And when the moment comes, you'll look back and say, I understand now. I see why it took so long. I see why it didn't happen when I wanted it to. I see why it didn't happen the way I expected it to. But I also want to tell you something. When it happens, it's going to be bigger than you imagined. It's going to be greater than you thought. It's going to be more than you ever dreamed. It's going to be the fulfillment of promises you didn't even know were for you. You're not going to just get what you expected. You're going to get what you couldn't have even dreamed of. Because when it comes, it's going to be beyond your wildest dreams. But let me also caution you, don't allow the timing to make you bitter. Don't let the waiting period turn you into someone who is angry, who is resentful, who is frustrated. I know it's hard to wait. I know it's tough when you see others around you moving forward and you feel like you're stuck. I know it can be difficult when you're doing everything right and you're still not seeing, but don't let the waiting turn you into someone who doubts, someone who gives up, someone who gives in. Your time is coming. And when it does, you'll be glad you didn't give up. You'll be glad you didn't let frustration steal your focus. You'll be glad you didn't let the enemy discourage you. Because when it's your time, nothing will stop you. I want you to keep your head up. I want you to hold your chin high. I want you to keep pressing forward. I want you to keep moving, keep believing, keep trusting. Don't you dare quit now. Don't you dare give in now. I don't care how dark it looks. I don't care how uncertain the road is. I don't care how many detours you've had to take. I don't care how many no's you've heard. Your time is coming. And when it comes, you'll know it. You'll feel it in your spirit. You'll see it with your eyes. You'll know that it was worth the wait. Because when it's your time, everything that's been delayed, everything that's been postponed, everything that's been held up will suddenly be released. You're going to walk into a season of favor. You're going to walk into a season of opportunity. You're going to walk into a season of blessing. And you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't by your hand. It wasn't by your strength. It wasn't by your power. It was by a higher purpose, a divine schedule. A plan that was set before you ever even started the journey. So I need you to stand tall. I need you to be strong. I need you to believe. And I need you to understand that your time is coming. And when it does, it's going to be more than you could ever imagine. It's going to be more than you could ever hope for. So don't you quit now. Keep walking, keep believing, keep moving forward. The moment is coming, and it's going to be everything you've been waiting for. It's going to happen because it's already been written. It's already been decided. The clock is ticking, the time is set, and when it comes, you will step into it with power, with purpose, with destiny. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when that moment hits, you'll know that it was worth every moment of waiting. Because everything you've been through, everything you've endured, every prayer you've prayed, every tear you've cried, it was all leading you to this moment. And when that moment comes, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stop it. When it's your time, it's your time. And nothing in this world, nothing on this earth can take away what's already yours. It's coming, and it's going to be right on time. The idea that everything happens according to a higher divine schedule. Your struggles, delays, and setbacks are part of a greater plan that's preparing you for your breakthrough. Trust the process as it is preparing you for what is to come. Waiting isn't about inactivity, but about preparation and growth. The wait is refining you, strengthening you, and aligning you for the moment when everything will come together. Even when you don't see it, there are forces behind the scenes working in your favor. Things are being set up and people are being placed in positions to help you at the right moment. The breakthrough you're waiting for is already being orchestrated. When the time comes, nothing can stop the blessings that are yours. The fulfillment of your desires will be bigger, greater, and more than you imagined. Stay focused, trust the timing, and know that your moment is approaching. When we talk about divine timing, we are touching on something that transcends human understanding. The world we live in is governed by time, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years. But there is another time. One that doesn't follow the conventional clock. One that doesn't always make sense based on our limited perspective. It is a time that has been set into motion long before we ever arrived on the scene. Divine timing is not something we can control or predict, but rather something we must surrender to and trust. Imagine for a moment that your life is a grand masterpiece, each brushstroke carefully placed, each detail meticulously planned. Every season of your life, every moment of pain, every success, every setback has been a part of the larger picture being painted. When you look back, it may seem like there are gaps, like some pieces are missing, or like things haven't gone the way you expected. But what you might not see in the moment is that every gap is just a pause, every disappointment a setup, and every delay a preparation for what is to come. We are not always able to understand the purpose behind certain experiences in the moment. Why did the opportunity pass you by? Why did the relationship fall apart? Why did you have to go through the season of silence and waiting? It can be frustrating, even painful, when things don't seem to be happening when you think they should. But if you take a step back and look at it from a higher vantage point, you'll see that what felt like a setback was in fact a step forward. You see, divine timing isn't about things happening when we want them to. It's about things happening when we are ready for them. Think about the process of growing a seed into a tree. That seed doesn't sprout overnight. It doesn't jump out of the ground the moment it's planted. It has to go through a process of growth. First, it's buried in the soil. Then it starts to sprout. Then it slowly breaks through the earth's surface, reaching toward the light. There is a process that must be followed, and it takes time. The seed doesn't have control over how long it takes to become a tree. It simply goes through the stages, trusting that each stage is leading to the next. It doesn't rush the process. It doesn't demand its growth. It simply grows at the pace it's meant to. In the same way, we are the seeds in the soil of life. We may not understand why we have to go through certain seasons of waiting, pain, or struggle, but those seasons are shaping us. We are being cultivated, refined, and strengthened so that we can handle the blessings and responsibilities that are on the way. We may not see it right now, but there's work being done within us that is necessary for what lies ahead. Divine timing works in cycles, not linear time, and everything that happens is orchestrated for a purpose, even when we can't see the full picture. Think about the process of preparation. Preparation isn't always easy, and it's rarely instant. There is often a period of development, a time of getting ready before the doors of opportunity open. You can't rush it. You can't push through it faster than you're ready for it. I've seen people who've tried to make things happen before they were prepared for them, and it doesn't work. It's like trying to bake a cake before the batter is mixed thoroughly, or trying to drive a car before learning how to control it. You can't skip the process. No matter how much you want to, the timing has to be right. This is why divine timing is so important. You can't skip the lessons that need to be learned. You can't skip the seasons of growth. You can't rush the process of becoming the person you need to be for what's coming next. Every experience, every challenge, every person that enters your life is preparing you for the moment when your breakthrough comes. And it's not always a comfortable process. Growth is not always becoming who you need to be in order to receive the next level of blessing. Often involves discomfort, struggle, and perseverance. But it's all part of the divine preparation. Take, for example, the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had a dream that one day he would be in a place of power, that he would be able to help his family and many others. His dream was clear, but Joseph couldn't just step into that dream immediately. His path was filled with years of challenges, betrayal, rejection, and hardship. From being sold into slavery by his brothers to being falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph faced one trial after another. But each of those trials was part of his preparation. If Joseph had been placed in a position of power without going through those experiences, he wouldn't have had the wisdom, the humility, or the strength to handle it. His journey was not about waiting for the dream to come true. It was about becoming the man who could carry that dream when the time was right. Divine timing is like that. It's not about getting to the destination as quickly as possible. It's about becoming who you need to be on the way. It's about gaining the strength, the character, the skills, the maturity, and the understanding you need in order to handle the blessings that are on their way to you. Without preparation, you wouldn't be ready for what's ahead. Without growth, you wouldn't be able to manage the weight of the success that's coming. There's a story in the Bible of a man named David. He was anointed to be king as a young boy, but he didn't immediately step into the throne. He had to go through years of being chased, being hunted, and being tested before he became the king. He had to go through the wilderness where he learned to trust in something greater than himself. He had to face Goliath, and in the process, he learned that the power he needed wasn't his own, but was given to him by something higher. Every battle, every challenge, every season of waiting was preparing David for the crown that was coming to him. And when the time was right, when divine timing had done its work, David stepped into his calling and became the king he was always meant to be. But it wasn't an instant process. It took time, and it took preparation. In your own life, you may find yourself in a similar situation. You may feel as though you've been waiting for far too long, and you wonder if the promise will ever come to pass. But I want to tell you today that every moment of waiting is not wasted. Every moment of waiting is a chance for you to prepare. Every challenge, every setback, every lesson is shaping you. It's all part of the process. And if you trust it, you will find yourself ready when your moment comes. You might feel as though the doors are closed, but the truth is the doors haven't opened because you're not ready for them yet. There's still more work to be done inside of you. And this work is good. It's shaping you. It's refining you. It's making you into the person you need to be for the life that's ahead. You are a work in progress, and that's okay. You are being prepared for greatness. And the waiting is not a punishment, it's a preparation. Think about it. If you received everything you wanted right now, could you handle it? Could you bear the weight of it? Could you manage the responsibility? Could you stand strong under the pressure of the blessings that are coming? If the answer is no, then trust that the time isn't right. But that doesn't mean the dream isn't coming. It just means there's more preparation to be done. The work that's happening behind the scenes is laying the foundation for something great. Divine timing doesn't happen according to our schedule, but it is always perfect. We may not understand it, but that doesn't make it any less true. There is a purpose behind every season, every delay, and every challenge. Every season of waiting is a season of preparation, and when the time is right, you will step into the life you were always meant to live. You will be ready, and everything will fall into place. So I encourage you, don't rush the process. Don't try to make things happen before it's time. Don't look at others and think that you're behind or that you're missing something. Trust that the timing is perfect. Trust that the preparation is happening, even if you can't see it. You are being shaped for something great, and when your moment comes, you'll be ready to step into it with all the strength, wisdom, and power that you've gained along the way. The path may be long and the waiting may be difficult, but it is all part of the divine plan. You are being prepared for greatness. And when the time is right, you will step into the fullness of your calling. And you will know that every moment, every challenge, and every delay was worth it. Waiting is one of the hardest things we are called to do. In a world that moves at an ever-increasing pace, where instant gratification is just a click away, waiting feels unnatural, even frustrating. It's easy to get caught up in the anxiety of not knowing when things will change or how they will unfold. We live in a society that values action, that promotes the idea of doing, moving, pushing, striving. So, when we find ourselves in seasons of waiting, it can feel like we're being held back, like we're not progressing, like we're losing time. But in reality, waiting is an active process, not a passive one. It's in the waiting that the most important work is done. Not on the outside, but on the inside. There's a misconception that waiting is synonymous with doing nothing. People often think of waiting as sitting idle with hands folded, watching time go by, but that's not what real waiting looks like. Real waiting is a process of preparation, growth, and transformation. It's a season where things are happening beneath the surface, things that we cannot see, but will soon be evident in the fruit of our lives. True waiting doesn't look like inactivity. It looks like development, like building strength, like refining character, like making decisions that will prepare you for what's ahead. When we wait, we're not just sitting in limbo. We are actively being shaped, whether we realize it or not. Think of a seed in the ground. It's waiting to sprout, waiting to grow, but it's not idle. Even though it's beneath the surface, the seed is doing something. Its roots are taking hold, its cells are multiplying, its structure is being built. Everything that's happening is preparing it to break through the soil and become something greater. The same is true for us in our waiting seasons. While we may feel like we're not moving, beneath the surface, God is at work, preparing us for the next stage of life. The key to active waiting is understanding that while we wait, we must continue to work on ourselves. This doesn't mean we are rushing toward a goal or forcing things to happen before the right time. It means that during the waiting period, we're using the time to prepare mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically for what is ahead. Preparation doesn't mean that we have to do everything ourselves. It's about being faithful in the small things, being diligent with what we've been given, and allowing ourselves to grow. We must focus on what we can control while we trust that the things we cannot control are in the hands of a higher power, One of the key aspects of active waiting is learning how to let go of control. We live in a world that wants to be in charge, that wants to know the outcome before we even take the first step. But sometimes the waiting is necessary because it forces us to trust. It forces us to let go of our need to control everything and learn the discipline of patience. Patience isn't just about sitting still. It's about staying faithful even when we don't know what the next step is. It's about trusting that everything has a season and every season has a purpose. There's something incredibly powerful that happens when we actively wait. It's in these moments that we learn the most about who we are. Waiting exposes our weaknesses, but it also reveals our strengths. It reveals our deepest fears and insecurities, but it also reveals our courage, our resilience, our faith. Waiting isn't about denying our emotions or pretending that everything is. It's about acknowledging where we are, being honest with ourselves, and still moving forward despite the uncertainty. In the waiting, we build endurance. The waiting season can teach us to become more grounded, more centered, more focused on the bigger picture. The longer we wait, the more we learn to endure the things we cannot change. Active waiting also teaches us how to be present. We can easily become fixated on what's to come, constantly thinking about the future and how we wish things would be. But waiting teaches us to be content with where we are. It teaches us how to appreciate the current moment and how to find joy in the journey, not just the destination. We cannot skip the waiting period, no matter how much we want to. We have to embrace it, grow through it, and make the most of the time we have before the next thing arrives. There is power in focusing on the present while preparing for the future. It's easy to let frustration take over when we're waiting for something. We focus so much on what's coming that we forget to live in the moment we're in. But active waiting challenges us to do the opposite. It encourages us to remain focused on the tasks at hand, to put our energy into what's right in front of us, even when we know there's something bigger coming. It's not about ignoring our dreams or desires for the future, but about fully engaging with the now. We can't miss out on what God is doing in us right now while we wait for what's to come. Patience is not passive, but it is a choice. Choosing to wait actively means choosing to keep moving forward even when we can't see the destination. It means continuing to show up every day even when we feel like nothing is happening. It means working on our character, our mindset, our attitude, and our actions, even when we feel like nothing is changing. And when the breakthrough comes, when the door opens, when the timing is right, we will be ready, not because we sat idle waiting for it, but because we actively worked on becoming the person who could handle the blessing when it arrived. In our waiting, we also develop trust. Trust isn't built in the moments of ease. It's built in the moments of uncertainty. When things are tough, when the wait feels long, that's when our trust in the process is tested. We may not understand why things aren't happening on our timeline, but trust teaches us that the timing is not ours to control. It teaches us to rely on something greater than ourselves, to believe that there is a plan, even when we can't see it. Trust doesn't always come easily, especially when we don't have the answers. But the more we trust, the easier it becomes to let go of the need for control and lean into the process. Active waiting is also about developing resilience. Life is full of challenges. And we will face many seasons where things don't go as planned, where doors close, where dreams are delayed. But resilience is what allows us to keep moving forward, even when it feels like we're taking 2 steps back for every step forward. Resilience is the ability to bounce back, to keep going despite the setbacks, to keep trusting even when things are uncertain. It's a muscle that we develop through the waiting seasons. The more we wait and trust, the stronger our resilience becomes. Moreover, active waiting teaches us how to work with what we have, even when we feel like we don't have enough. It's easy to feel inadequate in seasons of waiting. We often look at what we don't have, what's missing, and we get discouraged. But in the waiting, we learn to use what we have to its fullest potential. We begin to see opportunities where we once saw obstacles. We begin to make the most of the resources available to us. And we start to see that what we need for the next step is often already within us. Active waiting teaches us resourcefulness, creativity, and innovation. We start to realize that there is a realm beyond what we can see, a world of unseen forces at work that shape our lives in ways we often don't understand. Every day there is a current of energy, a flow of influence, a deep, invisible force moving things in the direction of our destiny. We walk through life as if we are the only ones making decisions, as if every outcome is solely the result of our actions. But the truth is, there is so much more happening behind the scenes than we realize. Things are unfolding on a level we can't always perceive. There is a hand guiding, a plan unfolding, and a purpose being worked out in ways that are invisible to our natural eyes. It's easy to think that the course of our lives is determined by just the choices we make or the actions we take. It's tempting to believe that everything that happens is a direct result of our efforts or the efforts of those around us. But if we are only focused on the visible, we miss the fact that there are deeper forces at play. There are things happening in the spiritual and unseen realm that we cannot always perceive. Things are being worked out on our behalf, even when we don't know it, even when we don't see it, and sometimes even when we don't feel it. There is a story that illustrates this principle perfectly. In the Bible, there's a moment in the life of the prophet Elisha when his servant becomes fearful because they are surrounded by the enemy. The servant looks out and sees the enemy's armies, and he's terrified. But Elisha responds by telling him not to fear, because though the servant can only see the enemy, there are great... Elisha prays for God to open the servant's eyes. And when he does, the servant sees that the hills are filled with heavenly armies, warriors in chariots of fire, far greater than the enemy he feared. In that moment, the servant's perspective shifts from the visible to the invisible. He sees what was always there, but he couldn't perceive it before. This story is a powerful reminder that even when we feel surrounded, even when we feel outnumbered, even when we feel like the odds are against us, there are greater forces working in our favor. We may not see them, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. There is a world beyond what our eyes can comprehend. And in that world, things are being arranged and aligned in ways that we cannot control, but are ultimately for our good. The truth is that there are forces at work in our lives, even when we feel like we're standing alone. It's easy to feel isolated, especially when life is hard. When the road is long and filled with challenges, it's tempting to think that we're walking through it all by ourselves. But we have to remember that there are unseen forces at work, orchestrating events behind the scenes. The people who come into our lives, the doors that open at just the right time, the timing of our breakthrough, all of this is not by accident. There is something happening in the background, something that is making sure that every piece of the puzzle falls into place. Things are moving in your favor even when you can't see it. Sometimes these unseen forces can manifest as people. You may not always know why someone enters your life at just the right moment or why a certain connection feels like it came out of nowhere. But what if that person was placed in your path to bring you closer to your destiny? What if the opportunity you thought was just a coincidence was actually part of a greater plan, unfolding according to a divine design? We may not understand why things happen the way they do, but we have to trust that there is more to the story than meets the eye. It's also important to recognize that unseen forces aren't just positive. There are forces working against us as well. Life isn't always going to be smooth sailing. We will face opposition, challenges, and struggles. But we must remember that these struggles are part of the process. Even when it feels like everything is working against us, there are unseen forces working on our behalf, making sure we are prepared, strengthened, and refined for what's ahead. The difficulties we face are often preparing us for greater things. They build our character, test our faith, and push us to grow. Though we may face opposition, we must remember that the unseen forces of good are always working to ensure that we come out stronger on the other side. These unseen forces don't just act independently. They are also influenced by the decisions we make, the prayers we pray, and the way we respond to the situations in our lives. The energy we put out into the world has an effect, and it can draw in the support or the resistance we encounter. When we live with purpose, with integrity, with faith, we begin to align ourselves with the forces of good that are working in the background. Our thoughts, our attitudes, and our actions can open the door for those unseen forces to move in our favor. When we focus on positivity, when we trust that things are working out for our good, we are participating in the unfolding process. Our faith is like a signal that activates the unseen forces that are working on our behalf. Think about it this way. Imagine you are in a dark room and you cannot see anything. There's a light switch on the wall, but you can't see it. But if you know that the light is there and you have faith that it will turn on when you flick the switch, then you act in confidence even without seeing the light. Similarly, even when we don't see the results, we have to trust that the light is on its way. We have to trust that the unseen forces are responding to our faith and our actions, and that eventually the light will flood the room. The key is in believing that things are happening even when we don't immediately see them. One of the most difficult aspects of this journey is learning to trust the unseen. We are a generation of instant gratification, of seeing results immediately, of having everything right at our fingertips. But trust doesn't work that way. Trust takes time. Trust grows in the silence, in the waiting, and in the unseen. And it's in that space of trust that the most incredible things happen. Things that we couldn't orchestrate on our own. Things that we couldn't plan or predict. The unseen forces are constantly at work, working in ways we can't understand, preparing the way for something bigger than we can imagine. There is also the realization that sometimes these unseen forces are pulling things out of our lives for our own good. There are times when we don't understand why things are falling apart, why doors are closing, or why opportunities are slipping through our fingers. But often, when things seem to be falling apart, it is because something greater is being prepared for us. The unseen forces are clearing the path, removing obstacles, and making way for something better. We may not see it in the moment, but we must trust that everything is unfolding according to a plan far greater than our own. Sometimes these forces are connected to people who may not even know they are playing a role in our lives. There are people who walk into our lives for a season, and even though we may not understand their role in the moment, later on we realize that they were part of the unseen work. They were a bridge to the next step, a catalyst for change, or a voice of encouragement at just the right time. These people, though invisible to our immediate understanding, are part of the greater forces working to align us with our destiny. We must also acknowledge the power of prayer and intention in this process. Prayer isn't just about asking for something and hoping it comes to pass. Prayer is a way of engaging with the unseen forces. It is a way of aligning ourselves with the greater flow of the universe. When we pray, we activate the forces that work on our behalf. We connect with something higher than ourselves, something that knows the bigger picture, something that sees what we cannot see and orchestrates what we cannot orchestrate. Prayer shifts the atmosphere, moves things in the spiritual realm, and activates the unseen forces to come to our aid. In the end, these unseen forces are a reminder that we are not alone in this journey. There is more happening than what we can perceive. There are things unfolding in the background, things moving in the spiritual realm, things being orchestrated in our favor. We may not see them right now, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. The challenge is to trust in the unseen, to believe that things are working in our favor, and to have the faith that what we cannot see is just as important, if not more so, than what we can. Even when things seem still, even when it feels like nothing is happening, know that there are unseen forces moving things on your behalf, aligning you with your destiny and bringing you closer to what is meant for you. Trust that everything is working together for your good, even when you can't see it yet. There comes a moment in every person's life, in every journey, when something shifts. It's that moment when you know deep down in your soul that all the waiting, all the struggle, all the setbacks have led you to this very moment. It's the moment when everything you've endured, every trial, every tear, every unanswered prayer suddenly begins to make sense. That moment is what I like to call an unstoppable breakthrough. It's the point where the forces you've been battling, the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable, the doubts that plagued your mind all begin to fall away. It's when the dream that you thought was too big, the goal you thought was too far out of reach, suddenly becomes reality. And nothing can stop it. Not the enemies, not the setbacks, not the failures, and certainly not the years of waiting. The breakthrough that's meant for you is unstoppable. You see, breakthrough isn't just about something changing in the physical realm. It's not just about an opportunity opening or a door swinging wide. True breakthrough begins on the inside. It begins in your mind and your spirit. It begins the moment you shift from a mindset of limitation to a mindset of possibility. It begins when you stop seeing the roadblocks as permanent, when you stop accepting the struggle as the end of your story, and when you start believing in the power of what's ahead of you rather than dwelling on the pain of what's behind you. Unstoppable breakthrough doesn't come because you've figured everything out, because you've never had any doubts, because the breakthrough comes when you make the decision to keep going, even when everything around you seems to be working against you. Many people face setbacks that can easily cause them to quit. They've been knocked down so many times that they feel like they can't get back up. They've been rejected, betrayed, disappointed, and beaten down. But the power of an unstoppable breakthrough is in the ability to rise again, even when it feels like the world is pushing you back down. The breakthrough is in the persistence, in the ability to rise above the challenges. The key to experiencing an unstoppable breakthrough is in your refusal to stay down, no matter how many times life knocks you to your knees. The story of a breakthrough often involves a season of preparation, sometimes a long one. Breakthrough doesn't happen overnight. We wish it did, but there is a process that must take place. There are lessons that need to be learned, wisdom that needs to be gained, strength that needs to be built. Every setback, every trial, every season of waiting is preparing you for that breakthrough. If you've ever watched someone go through a difficult journey, it might have seemed as though they were losing, as though they would never make it, but there is power in persistence. The same way that a seed must endure the darkness of the soil before it breaks through and reaches the light, you too must go through a season of preparation that feels uncomfortable, even painful, before your breakthrough. But know this, what you're going through is not wasted. It's setting the stage for something greater than you can imagine. Imagine an athlete preparing for a big race. The athlete doesn't just show up and expect to win. No, they've spent years training, pushing their body to its limits, enduring the pain of early mornings and long hours of practice. They've faced setbacks along the way, injuries, doubts, failures, but they never stop pushing forward. The day of the race comes, and they step onto the track, ready to run. In that moment, all the training, all the pain, all the struggle suddenly makes sense. They cross the finish line, victorious, and the crowd erupts in applause. But what people don't see is the preparation that went into that moment. They don't see the countless hours spent behind closed doors, working when no one was watching. They only see the result of the breakthrough. In your life, that breakthrough is no different. What's been building inside of you, what you've been working toward, what you've been preparing for. It's all coming to fruition. The days of struggle are coming to an end, and the days of victory are ahead of you. But it's important to recognize that the breakthrough isn't something you're waiting for. It's something that has been unfolding all along. It's been happening in small, seemingly insignificant ways, but now you are stepping into it. It's also important to recognize that an unstoppable breakthrough doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes we think of breakthrough as a big dramatic event, something that's loud and obvious, something that everyone will notice. But the truth is, breakthroughs often come quietly. They often come in small shifts, subtle changes, and moments of clarity that, at first, might seem insignificant. But once they occur, we begin to see the power of those small shifts and how they set the stage for something much greater. Don't expect your breakthrough to always come in the way you imagine. Sometimes it's the quiet victories that are the most powerful. Sometimes it's the gentle turning of the tide that makes all the difference. Think about it. When the tide turns, it doesn't do so with a loud crash. It happens slowly, steadily, and sometimes without you even realizing it. But once the tide is turned, the whole landscape changes. What once felt stagnant and stuck suddenly begins to flow. What once seemed impossible now feels within reach. That's the power of an unstoppable breakthrough. It doesn't always come with a loud announcement. It often comes with a quiet certainty, a deep knowing in your soul that things are shifting, that things are changing, and that the breakthrough is already here, even if you can't see all the details just yet. The power of breakthrough is also connected to your faith and your belief in the process. You see, there is a divine timing to everything. And sometimes the breakthrough you've been praying for, the breakthrough you've been waiting for, is just on the other side of one more step of faith. If you could only see what's waiting for you, you wouldn't hesitate to take that step. But faith requires trust in the unseen. Faith requires believing that the breakthrough is coming, even when you can't see the full picture. And often, the breakthrough will come when you least expect it, in the moments when you feel like you've reached the end of your rope, when you feel like you have nothing left to give. That's when you're closest to the breakthrough. There's a reason why they say that the night is darkest before the dawn. Sometimes it's in the hardest, most difficult moments that the breakthrough is about to arrive. And when it comes, nothing can stop it. The doors that were once closed will open. The opportunities that seemed out of reach will suddenly be within your grasp. And the dreams that once seemed impossible will become your reality. But you have to keep moving. You have to keep believing. You have to keep going. The breakthrough is coming, and when it does, it will be unstoppable. Another crucial aspect of an unstoppable breakthrough is understanding that it's not just for you, it's for everyone connected to you. Your breakthrough isn't just a victory for you, it's a victory for your family, your community, your friends, and anyone who has been part of your journey. When you experience an unstoppable breakthrough, it doesn't just bless you, it opens doors for others as well. Your victory becomes their victory. Your success becomes their success. Your breakthrough becomes a catalyst for breakthroughs in the lives of those around you. Think of the ripples created when you drop a stone into water. The initial splash might seem small, but soon the ripples begin to spread, reaching far beyond where the stone landed. That's how your breakthrough works. It doesn't just impact you, it spreads out, touching lives you may never even realize. Your story, your journey, your resilience becomes a testament to others who are waiting for their own breakthrough. And finally, you have to understand that when the breakthrough comes, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. The breakthrough is not the final destination. It's the opening of a new chapter in your life. It's the opportunity to step into a new level of purpose, a new level of success, and a new level of influence. The breakthrough is only the beginning of something greater. When you experience an unstoppable breakthrough, you are not just given a moment of victory, you are given a whole new realm of possibility. The door opens and you step into a new world, one where your potential is limitless, where your dreams are within reach, and where anything is possible. So, when the breakthrough comes, don't hold back. Step into it with both feet. Embrace it. Own it. Because what you've been waiting for, what you've been working toward, what you've been praying for is here. And it cannot be stopped. It's unstoppable. It's yours.